Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. I do hope you're well. Now then, today's video is all about a few little useful tricks of the trade that I learned from Thin Lizzy. And we'll begin with perhaps what is their signature sound, the twin lead guitar harmony part. They had a couple of different ways of putting this together, and I think the most accessible way of doing it you can see in this solo from Waiting for an Alibi. Now what's going on there for the most part is based on the pentatonic scale, and that's the bit I'm going to concentrate on right now. The main kind of lick is based around pattern number 1 of the pentatonic. The song's in C sharp minor, although on the track it is detuned 1 semitone, so it actually comes out in C minor, but I basically couldn't be bothered doing that. So we're in C sharp minor, and pattern number 1 of C sharp minor pentatonic looks like this. There it is, and that fast kind of pull-off lick of that is entirely just that pattern. Now, here's the useful thing to know, and this is what I learned from this solo. In order to harmonise that, all I've got to do is go to the next but one pentatonic shape up from that. So if you know your pentatonic patterns, this is dead easy. Here's pentatonic position 1 in C sharp minor. Number 2 starts at the 12th fret. Again, back to the root of C sharp for the C sharp minor. If you're not sure about these pentatonic shapes, then there is a lesson in some detail on them elsewhere on this channel. And after position number 2, we come to pentatonic position number 3, which the easy way to find where each pentatonic shape begins is the second note of position 1 becomes the first note of position 2, and the second note of position 2 becomes the first note of position 3, which is this. And all I have to do is whatever moves I make down here in pattern 1, let's say I go like that, I just track that and mirror it, if you like, in position 3. So exactly the same moves in position 3. And those two parts will harmonise beautifully. Here is the solo once again, but this time you're going to see the pattern 1 part on its own, then the pattern 3 part on its own, then you'll hear them both together again, and see if you can spot basically the patterns that are being used. And just to make the point that little bit more illustratively, if that's a word, here I am again just doing a riff of my own kind of making, using, I did this in A minor, pattern 1, and then I harmonise that with the same run effectively, but well, the same moves in A minor pattern 3. Again, you'll see the pattern 1 lick, then you'll see the same lick kind of moved up into pattern 3, and then you'll hear them both together and see and hear how they harmonise beautifully. And that is how you can instantly create a twin lead guitar harmony part without, really speaking, any knowledge of theory or anything like that at all. You're not having to sit down and figure out thirds and sixths and where you need to kind of tuck it into the chord using a fourth or a fifth or anything like that. All the sort of usual stuff that you have to do with harmonising anything, be it lead guitar parts or backing vocals for that matter. You can just literally track the moves into the next but one pentatonic shape up and you're good to go. Now then, we're going to be coming back to lead guitar harmony parts later on in the video, but the next thing we're going to look at is a little bit of something to do with how you can make riffs and rhythm guitar parts sound that little bit more urgent and give them a bit more momentum. So let's crack on with that. Some time ago I read an interview with Scott Gorham in one of the guitar magazines. I can't remember which one, doesn't matter. But anyway, the interviewer asked him kind of, what would you say is the defining characteristic of Thin Lizzy's music? And rather than saying, obviously, harmony guitar parts, what he actually said was pushes. Now a push is a rhythmic device where basically you start early. Essentially that's what it amounts to. So imagine you've got a counting of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and you would normally come in right on the downbeat of the 1 after that. But if you're going to use a push, then you actually come in on the and of the 4. So it'd be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And you find this device all over the riffs and chord progressions of countless Thin Lizzy songs. You'll find it quite noticeably on The Boys Are Back in Town. We're going to take a listen now to the famous kind of intro part of The Boys Are Back in Town, but the first time you hear it, you're going to hear it without those pushes, and you'll just hear it doesn't quite sound right somehow. And now let's hear the same thing, but with the pushes this time. Basically, all of the chords now are going to start half a beat earlier than you heard in that previous example. And as you can hear, that definitely sounds more like what you hear on the track. Adding these pushes into any riff automatically just lends it a sense of urgency and momentum that in some cases, like what we just heard there, is an absolutely integral part of what makes the thing sound correct. Just to make the point a little bit further, here's a riff of my own creation, and the first time you'll hear it without pushes, and then you'll hear it with. So there you have it, pushes. According to Scott Gorham, one of the defining characteristics of Thin Lizzy's music. Now, I said we were going to go back to some twin lead guitar harmony stuff later on in the video, and that time is now. This time though, rather than looking at pentatonic based harmonisation, we're going to take a little bit of a trip down modal avenue. Now then, this section of the tune is played over a bass line that goes something like this. And that bass line is basically outlining this chord sequence. And then round it again. Now, that chord sequence there is using chords mainly from the key of D major. Okay, as soon as you have a D chord, as you saw we have in this, a G chord and an A chord, there is only one key where those three chords can occur together. That is the key of D major. But what's actually happening here is that instead of making the D chord the focus of the chord sequence, we're actually making the A chord the focus of the chord sequence. And it settles nicely on that A chord, largely due to this E major chord here, which isn't strictly speaking in the key of D major. We're using it as what's called a secondary dominant chord, basically a guest chord that points us in the direction of the chord we want to resolve to, which is the A chord. There's a lesson elsewhere on this channel about the whole topic of modal chord sequences, so if you are interested in that, go and hunt that down. I'll probably put a link in the description below anyway. Okay, so because apart from that E chord we're in the key of D major, we're going to be using largely the D major scale for the source of the harmonies. When you take a D major scale or a D major key and reorientate it so that the A chord tonality is the focus of what's going on, you are said to be in the Mixolydian mode. Anyway, enough of all of that theory stuff. That's quite enough of that for a Monday morning. Let's have a look at the lower harmony part first of all. Let me just get a kind of lead guitar-ish sort of sound. What happens first of all is we start on this C sharp note, 6th fret on the 3rd string, and slide it down to the A note. Now both of those notes are in the A chord that's happening at the time. After that the chord sequence goes down to a G, so we use this little 3-note passage, which is a G, an A and a B. The G and the B note are in the G major chord, and all three of those notes, well, all of the notes that we've used so far, come from the D major scale, A Mixolydian mode, whatever you want to call it. So far we've got, and that final note there is an F sharp, 4th fret on the 4th string, which heralds the arrival of the F sharp minor chord. And then you just play a D chord and an E chord to fit in with the bass line that's happening. Okay, there's no real lead guitar part going on there. So that gives us a lower harmony part of this. Like that. And it's when we look at what's going on with the upper harmony part that things begin to get a little bit interesting. This is harmonised to begin with in thirds. Now thirds are just basically scale notes that are 3 scale steps apart. So we start on the C sharp note for the lower part harmony. I go a third above that, just count up 3 scale notes from that. 1, 2, 3. That takes me to an E note. Okay, so now I just track those moves that I did in the lower harmony part, but this time everything is 3 scale steps higher, which gives me essentially E going down to a C sharp. Now if we were going to continue that third based harmony for the next part, that would take us to, it would probably go like that, but it doesn't. What it does is this next part starts on the C sharp note. It goes C sharp, D, E, and then we finish on the A note, which is happening over the F sharp minor chord. It's this C sharp, D, E part that I want to concentrate on here. Okay, now that is harmonising with the G, A, B part, which gives us a rather dissonant sounding harmony. I'll play this on a single guitar so you can kind of hear. We've got G and C sharp. We've then got A and D. Then we've got B in the lower harmony and E in the upper harmony, and that all together goes. And it's that little dissonant interval there between the G note and the C sharp note that gives us a real sense of drama, a sense of excitement, really, you might want to call it. If you add up what's going on there, then you've got a G chord being outlined in the bass and essentially an A chord. Certainly 2 of the 3 notes from an A chord, so we can pretty much call it an A chord, the C sharp and the E. And if you add the notes of a G major chord and an A major chord together, you get 2 different chords depending upon which way around you add them up. If you have the A chord at the bottom, if like the bass was doing an A chord at that point, with a G chord superimposed on top of it, you would have an A dominant 11th chord. But when you get what we've got here, which is a G chord happening in the lower register and essentially an A major chord being outlined over the top of it, you get a G6 add 9 sharp 11 chord, which if you played all those notes together would sound like this. Now I bet you didn't know there was a jazzy chord like that in The Boys Are Back in Town, but it's there. It's not being played on one particular instrument. There isn't a guitarist or anybody else kind of going, okay, let's play a G6 add 9 sharp 11 chord, but when you add up everything that's going on, it is there. And it's subtle little things like that that if you're doing a cover of a song like this can often get overlooked, and you end up thinking, hang on, why doesn't this sound quite right? Yeah, little details like that matter basically, and hopefully now you have a bit better understanding of them. Let's take a look at both of those harmony parts now, along with the bit that comes after it, which is of course the that part, you know, the however it goes. And what goes on with that is, if we think back to the Waiting for an Alibi solo from earlier where we're harmonising pentatonically, well that essentially just goes back to that method of creating a harmony. Here it all is. See if you can spot what's going on. And there you have it, 3 of the many things that I've learned from listening to the music of Thin Lizzy. I hope you found this video instructional, maybe even a little bit inspiring, and certainly I hope you found it interesting. If you have, please hit the subscribe button. That way you will get to see more videos of this type. And if you live on Teesside in the northeast of England and you would like some tailored one-to-one guitar tuition, then get in touch with me via the details at the end of this video. Even if you don't live on Teesside, get in touch anyway, because I also do lessons via Skype, and your first lesson, whichever way you choose to take it, in person or via the interweb, is of course free. I'll also just take a moment now to give a plug to both the albums that I've got out at the moment. You can find them on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, all the usual places basically. We've got The Whiskey Made Me Do It, which came out beginning of last year, and the most recent one is called Handles for Forks, and they're both chock full of bluesy, shreddy, melodic, flashy guitar playing, so what's not to like there? So that's it for today, folks. I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now.